We're at 12:01. Let 12:01 Eastern. Let's do it. Thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to be here with us live. If you've joined one of our webinars in the recent past, you know that we like to start just by acknowledging we know how busy you all are. We know how for AR folks, even a typical Thursday in July can get pretty hectic. So we're always very appreciative when you all manage to carve out some time to join one of these webinars live. It's always a lot of fun for us to be with you all in the moment in real time. Mix it up in the chat. Again, if you haven't already, let us know where you are calling in from. My name is Connor. I do marketing here at ARInsights. As I said earlier, I'm calling in today from New York City, not my usual spot. And I am joined today by a very special co-host, Laura Taylor, who is our head of product here at ARInsights, our head of marketing. And for the purposes of today's session, perhaps most importantly, she's the mastermind, the product manager of AR Connect. So Laura, hello.
Hello, hello. Very excited to be here and talk about one of my favorite subjects, AR Connect.
Yes. It's something that Laura and I talk about all the time internally, and it's fun for us to get to do this with all of you. So welcome. We have a ton of stuff to cover today, so we are going to keep this moving. I just have one housekeeping item before we get to the main event, and that is, of course, AR Engage Live. This is a free, exclusively in-person conference for analyst relations professionals. It's a day and a half of keynote presentations, fireside chats, breakout sessions, all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, in between all of those sessions, lots of time for networking, for you all to reconnect with old friends, make some new friends, exchange notes, all that good stuff. We know how much the AR community loves to socialize, and we'd love to be there with you all as well. Some of you on the call may have been with us in San Francisco back last November. And this year, November, we're bringing it back to the East Coast, and we're doing it in Boston, November 11th and 12th, with this sort of core three-pronged theme of focus, clarity, and trust. So I bring this up because registration is open. You can get your tickets today. And like I said, AR Engage Live is free. You can get your ticket today for $0. It costs nothing to attend. And the other thing I mentioned, which I really want to reiterate, is that AR Engage Live is exclusively in person, which means there's no live stream and there's no virtual attendance option, which means that there's actually a limited number of tickets that we can give out because there's only so much space in the venue. So tickets are going fast. They will run out. So really strongly encourage you all today to go to ARInsights.com. You'll see at the top of the site how to get to AR Engage Live. And you'll also see on that site, for folks who weren't there last year, there's a great recap video that will give you a sense of what you can expect. There's more detail on this theme of focus, clarity, and trust. So check that out and get your free ticket today because they are going quickly. And that's all I have for housekeeping. So we will get right to our main event. Now, Laura and we were very excited and pleasantly surprised to see that quite a few folks who registered for today's session are not yet subscribed to AR Connect, which is great. Welcome, everybody. But for that reason, we did want to make sure that we sort of level set at the top here with just a quick refresher on what AR Connect is and like just literally what it looks like from an analyst's point of view, just so we're all grounded in the same reality. So for our AR Connect power users on the call, apologies, I promise I'll keep that quick, just so that we can level set. After I've done that, I will pass the mic over to Laura, and she will give the sort of the state of the ecosystem address, if you will, and share some key metrics to give you all a sense of the size and the growth and the vitality of this AR Connect ecosystem that we are all building together. We kicked it off earlier this year, and you'll get a snapshot today of where things stand with AR Connect. And then after that, we will get to the main event of the main event, which of course is answering your questions. And just to set some expectations here, thank you to all of you who pre-submitted your questions. We gave you all the option when you registered for the webinar to submit your question ahead of time. Many of you did, which we appreciate because it gave Laura and me the chance to go through those ahead of time and start to find the commonalities, find the folks who are basically asking the same question. And what we found was that, and we'll get into this later, most of the questions you all submitted rolled up to one of two sort of major meaty questions. So that's where we'll go after the state of the ecosystem. That being said, this is an AMA or an Ask Us Anything, AUA. So of course, you all should feel encouraged to ask questions live, whether you came prepared with a question or something just pops into your head as we are making our way through the content. Of course, submit it. All that Laura and I ask is that you please use the Q&A function for that. If you have a question, please submit it via the Q&A. The reason we ask that is because the chat we tend to use for other purposes. We use it more for fun stuff, and we'll also maybe have some call to action to sort of chime in with ideas. So as Laura and I are posting and also managing our screens. It's just very easy in the chat for us to sort of lose those questions. So please ask them using the Q&A. And that is that. So I will stop sharing my slide deck, and I'm going to pull up a different view for you all. And we're going to just, again, just quickly level set on what we mean when we talk about AR Connect. So
Good old bistro.
yes. So let me know, Laura, can you see
Yes.
that? Okay. So this is, imagine that I am an analyst and I'm using AR Connect. I'm a member of the ecosystem. When I log into my AR Connect account, this is what I see. This is sort of where I land for my homepage. And what you all see right now is you're looking at the two vendors that I am connected with. What that means is that these are the two vendors that have explicitly given me permission to view their content on AR Connect. In this case, those two vendors are ARInsights and Bistro, which for anyone who may not know is a fictional cybersecurity vendor. We made them up for demo purposes. So these are the two vendors who have said, yes, Conor, like we are giving you permission to view our content. That can happen in one of two ways. Either these vendors can proactively invite me to view their content because they know that I cover their spaces and they want to make sure that they're engaging me. Or I can, as an analyst, I can request access to view their content. And then it's up to the vendors whether or not they want to accept or decline that request, which we'll talk about a little bit later. The point I want to make here, though, is that connected means the vendor has given permission to the analyst, and you as a vendor, you do not need to worry about any analysts viewing your content unless you have explicitly said, yes, I want this person to see my content. It's a very secure environment in this way. So these are the two vendors I'm connected with. I could take a look and see, there are 11 vendors that have made themselves discoverable, which is something else we'll get into later. 11 discoverable vendors who I've not connected with yet. So I could come here and I could browse those vendors. If any of them are relevant to me, I could request access. And then again, up to them whether or not they want to grant that request. Pending requests, I could see them here. Pending invitations from vendors, I could view here. And then there's sort of a total directory. Now on the left-hand side here, as an analyst, I can see, okay, since the last time I logged in, I have 5 updates, 5 notifications from the vendors that I am connected with. I can see that Bistro, since I last logged in, they've published a bunch of content. Great. This is a super easy way for me to get up to date on what I might have missed. And the last thing I'll show here before we move on is I'll just click into Bistro's site, for example. So as an analyst, when I go to Bistro's site, this is what I see. I can do a keyword search to find content. I can filter by the types and the topics. They have these featured posts up here that I can check out. And then come down here to all their posts. Anything that I bookmark is very easily accessible here in this saved posts view. And then, of course, I can browse by feature topics as well. So that is just a super quickly, that's the analyst experience of AR Connect. So I hope for folks who are new that was helpful in sort of grounding what it is that we're talking about. So I'm going to, once again, quickly stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to go back to our slide deck. Okay. And now that we are all sort of on the same page, I will hand things over to Laura for the state of the ecosystem.
Excellent. Thank you, Conor. So we'll start by talking a little bit about the AR Connect ecosystem and where it stands today, or as of yesterday, July 8th. We've got 459 unique analysts connected, with 1,000 and 1,300, sorry, a little over 1,300 visits across 148 unique firms. So I feel really great about this. Conor, if you jump ahead, if you look at the growth curve, just looking back the past few months, so going back to April, you can see that, we started out April at 259 connected influencers, and we're up now roughly 75% in just 2 months. Of having the site live. Besides making me very happy from a product manager perspective because people are using it, it should also matter because every month that you're not a part of the ecosystem is a month of reach to these analysts that you don't get back. quick. So if you're still going through your migration process or you're waiting for some meaningful milestone to be hit, like we hit it, it happened. There is meaningful scale and activity, so there is no more reason to wait. And, on the firm size, if you think about the firms that are critical to you, we've got a breakdown on the left-hand side of this chart of how the analysts break across firms. And you can see IDC and Gartner represent the two biggest slices in this pie here. And then there's um, some smaller slices that spread across Forrester, Frost and Sullivan, Omdia, Infotech, ISG. And then we've got this big bucket of long tail, where we might have just one or two analysts from a particular firm. So this isn't just a big three ecosystem. This is definitely an ecosystem that has breadth and depth. And if your priority analysts are represented here, then there's definitely reach for you. Um, Connor, if you want to jump ahead, one of the things that we were really anxious to hear is how do analysts feel about this experience, right? And we've had analysts in our conversations give us some testimonials that I think Connor has quickly already added to our website. But you can see here some really great feedback from active analysts. And what I love about this is that these testimonials both basically get at the same thing, which is they love one login, one place, and instead of having to jump through email and juggle different sites and different URLs and different logins, they can get in, they can be efficient and effective. And that's good for you because that means they get what they need from you and can move on to the really important stuff, which is actually publishing what they think. So
Yes.
you can move
Well,
along.
yeah, and speaking of which, so because we have these analysts who have so enthusiastically embraced AR Connect as a really critical part of their research work, well, how they get work done. What we've started to see are these really exciting examples of instances where an analyst comes to AR Connect, they go to a particular vendor site and they view a particular piece of content. And then just a few days later, they go out into the world and they publish research or other content for public consumption that very clearly reflects their usage of AR Connect and their consumption of that content that the vendor shared with them. So I'm going to give you all, to make this concrete, I'll share an example. We have anonymized it, so any details related to the vendor have been redacted for privacy considerations. But you all will get the gist. I'll just get right to it. So we're on the back end of AR Connect here, and what we are looking at on this screen, it's showing activity analytics for a particular analyst. So in this case, it's IDC, a woman named Arcana from IDC. This is a screenshot that was captured back in April. And what's really important here is that we can see on the morning of, at two different points on the morning of 10th, Arcana came to AR Connect and viewed a particular piece of content. A vendor was making an announcement and it had to do with AI and trustworthiness. So that's on April 10th. She views that content. And then we fast forward just a week to April 17th, and we can see we're on IDC's website. Here is Arcana, April 17th. She published a new piece of research, and it's about this announcement that she was reading about on AR Connect. And you can see that she is clearly echoing the language of the vendor. And so again, what I want to just drive home here is that this is just one of many examples that we're able to see now, where the content that vendors share, it directly influences and drives what analysts say about them publicly, which is a really key part of our vision for this ecosystem, right? On the one hand, we have the scale, the scale thing, which is very important. We know that you all there's way more work to be done than anyone can get done through traditional means. So it's important to have a scalable way to reach analysts and influencers. At the same time, another part of our vision here is giving you all the receipts, giving you all a concrete way to say, hey, the work that we're doing, the content that we're sharing, not only is it reaching our target audience, it is directly translating into this growing body of really positive coverage that is great for our business. So making sure that you all have those tools to do that storytelling internally is really important to us. And this is just one of many examples that we're starting to see with AR Connect. So with that, I'll pass it back over to Laura to sort of bring us home on the state of the ecosystem portion of today's webinar.
Yes. And this sort of bleeds into the AMA portion in that we do get a lot of questions about what do I put on AR Connect, right? What content should I be considering and what works? Well, here's a little bit about what's there now and how it's landing, right? And there is if you're looking for the TLDL, too long didn't listen, I'm loving that. The formats that are getting published the most are not getting consumed the most. So, what do I mean about that? If you look at the chart on the left here, the pie chart on the left, you can see 50% of what you all are posting or what our customers are posting on AR Connect is press releases and blogs. They make up half of everything. And I get it. They're the easiest lift. It makes the most sense. But when you look at the right-hand side of the slide and you look at the reach, the average number of influencers, the content types reach, um, they're actually at the bottom of the list, right? What is actually making the biggest impact and getting consumed the most are webinars and briefings. Small share of what's published, but drive the highest average reach. So, the takeaway here is if you're thinking through your content calendar or you're thinking about how you get started with AR Connect and trying to invest your effort in content where it's going to have the biggest lift, invest in that meatier, more specific stuff, webinars, briefings, solution briefs, content that is targeted at the AR community, because that is what analysts are actually consuming. Um,
Yes. Yeah. I would say that's definitely one of our first like big takeaways for today. And you're right, Laura. This really is getting into the AMA. Yeah, we know this is top of mind for you all. So make sure to take note of this. One thing I want to add here is that there is a content type that is not represented on this slide here, but I do think it's worth mentioning, and that's newsletters. Laura and I, and all of us here at ARInsights, we're super bullish on the potential for newsletters as a really effective piece of content to be distributed via AR Connect. The reason it's not included here is because we excluded from this analysis any type of post with a sample size smaller of 5. So across all the vendors in the ecosystem, I think we have only 3 or 4 newsletter posts that have gone up so far. However, so take it with a grain of salt. It's a small sample size. However, those posts, those newsletter type posts, get a ton of engagement. They not only drive a lot of visits and repeat visits and sort of like a lot of time on the page, they also have very broad appeal. We see that those newsletter posts, they tend to attract lots of influencers from lots of different firms. So again, for the sake of like data integrity, we didn't include it in this analysis, but I really would encourage everyone, and Laura would do the same. Would encourage everyone to try a newsletter as sort of a recurring form of content on AR Connect. I think you'll see great results, and that's sort of a piece we'll come back to in just a little bit. So I did want to pause here. So that's what we have in terms of, I can't see the chat, in terms of data. Now, looks like we may have some questions. I wanted to pause for a moment. If anybody had any questions on any of the data we just presented, I wanted to give everyone just a few seconds to get those questions in, because we can pause here before we move on and sort of double back anywhere that's needed.
Yeah, Connor, there's one question in here already specific to content types, a question about customer testimonials. And I don't know if you can talk to, was that grouped in with case studies here, or did you see that in the analysis?
Yes, that was sort of that was folded into the case studies piece of this. Now, I'll also say again, this is a new ecosystem. More vendors, more analysts are joining every day. More content is going up every day. So as the sample size here grows, these numbers could change. We could see that case studies, for example, as that sample size gets bigger and bigger, as more vendors start using this as a way to share those, we might see that the average reach goes up. This could be a case of just the data that we have so far. But yes, customer testimonials are sort of folded in there. Going once, going twice. Any more questions? You all, of course, will get the deck and the recording, and you can always email us. But that is the state of the ecosystem. That is where we are right now. And before we get to sort of answering your questions, we are going to, if you all will indulge us, we are going to ask you all a few quick questions just so we can get a sense of who is in the crowd here with us today. So if I go to polls, okay. We've got three quick poll questions for you all. So I'm going to launch the first one now. Super simple, yes or no. Are you, at this moment, subscribed to AR Connect? Give everyone a minute to get their answers in here. Thank you to everyone who is participating. Okay, we're sort of leveling out a bit. And okay, I'm going to end the poll now. Again, this is a pleasant surprise. I mean, more than half of the folks on the call today are not yet subscribed to AR Connect. Again, welcome. I'm glad I did that quick little demo at the top so that you all knew what we're talking about. That's great. Thank you all for being here. And of course, to those who are part of the ecosystem, thank you all as well. That's great to see. So I'm going to stop sharing. And then two more quick poll questions for you all before we get to the meat of today's webinar. So this is just for the folks, for those 14 or whatever it was who are not yet subscribed. We'd love to know, do you have a primary tool for sort of scaling your outreach to analysts and influencers? Is it email? Have you used SharePoint or something similar to sort of create a homegrown portal? Is there something else, or is it sort of inconsistent at this point in terms of scalable outreach? Thank you to the folks who are chiming in. We'll give this a few more seconds. Just a few more seconds here. Okay, it seems like we've sort of leveled out. So I'll end the poll and I will share the results. So half the folks who chimed in said that email, no surprise, is their primary way of scaling outreach. We've got a homegrown portal, we have something else, and then a few folks who it's not quite consistent yet in terms of scaling that outreach. That's great. Thank you all. That's very helpful for us to know. And just one more poll question, then we'll move on. It's not letting me. Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. Sorry about that. I will launch the last one. For folks who are using AR Connect, so I think there are about 11 or 12 of you live on the call. For those who are using it, could you let us know if there are any ways that you are internally reporting on the ROI that you're seeing from AR Connect? Are you talking to your stakeholders about number of visits, the number of analysts and influencers you're engaging, the amount of engagement you're seeing from a certain segment or tier or group of analysts? Is it about the coverage that you're earning? Is it something else, or not quite measuring ROI? Give this a few more seconds. I think we've got almost full participation from the AR Connect users, which is great. Thank you all. Okay, I'll end this poll, share the results. Pretty good split here that folks are looking at. Number of visits, unique analysts engaged. Great. Okay, awesome. Thank you all. It's very helpful for us to sort of get level set with who we have in the crowd. So we appreciate it. Those are all the questions we're going to ask you for now.
I think it's interesting, Connor, when we look back at the answer to the first poll question around email being the tool that is engaged for the vendors to communicate at scale, and for the vendor it is at scale. But when we flip that around, and if I'm the advocate here for our analyst and influencer friends, it's the opposite for them, right? They are getting emails from y'all plus, the other anyone else. And so that was definitely when we did this analysis about a year ago when we conducted our survey, we got the same feedback. So very interesting.
Okay, so that's our way for poll questions. Now we'll get on to, like I mentioned at the beginning, thank you to all of you who pre-submitted your questions. Like I said, for the most part, they rolled up to one of two sort of big meaty questions. The first one being around engagement. How do I drive more engagement with my AR Connect site? Or another way of saying this is adoption. How do I get analysts to better adopt my AR Connect site? So that is the first question we are going to tackle today. Again, as we're going through this, if you have a related question that pops into your mind, please feel free to submit it through the Q&A. But for now, I will stop sharing because we are going to exit the slides. And I am going to bring you all to the back end of AR Connect for Bistro, for our fictional cybersecurity company. So let me get that pulled up.
And I'll dive in, Connor, and start answering here. Because Connor and I spent some time with your questions that you sent in advance and um, you know, put together our thoughts. So when we think about driving engagement, driving in adoption, we're talking about a classic marketing challenge, right? Number one, the sort of lowest hanging fruit that you could possibly do is to make your site discoverable. So there is a setting and Connor's so graciously kind of taking you through that. There is a setting in the site settings of AR Connect where you can toggle. It's just as simple as that, on or off, to make your site discoverable. That means the 450 so odd analysts that and influencers that are coming into AR Connect, when they log in and see their vendor directory, they can see you appear in the vendor directory and request to be connected to you. There really is genuinely no downside here. If you don't want to be connected to them, you just dismiss the request. If you do, you accept. It doesn't mean you have to do any extra work to, deal with that one particular influencer that's raised its hand. I would say if you leave this AMA and take any action, that's the one that's going to actually get you more exposure. Um, every time we migrate a new customer over to AR Connect, we see a influx of requests, right? It's a new opportunity for influencers to get back in, look who's in the vendor directory, and make their request for connection. So
What I toggled to over here for folks is that in the what's great is that in the on the site access panel here on the left, when you have a pending request from an analyst or an influencer, you'll get this big bold number showing you how many pending requests you have. So you come to site access, and you can come over to requests, and we can see that we have this one pending request from Laura Taylor. And as Laura was saying, totally up to us whether we want to accept or dismiss this request. This analyst will not see anything until we have decided to accept. Yeah, and while we're on the screen,
and that number stays there as long as there's one pending request in your that you have one pending request. Every time you log in, you're going to see that number. So if you see that number, then you know that there's an action that you should take, which is my point number two,
yeah,
is to stay on top of access requests. Don't let them sit. I mean, it's just um, it's it's simple. You just accept or dismiss and move on with your life. And if someone is looking to connect with you and you truly feel like you have something relevant to say to them, then leaving them sitting is not going to help anyone.
yeah, I'd say it's definitely like when you can when you're really on top of these and you're accepting when they're relevant, when you're accepting those requests very quickly. I think it's a great signal to the analyst. Okay, this is a vendor who's very engaged in the ecosystem. This is a vendor who I can expect to keep me up to date. Because that's the value prop for them, right? To stay up to date with good information. I think that's a great way to demonstrate that.
Number three in my list here. So for those of you that were legacy portal subscribers and have migrated over to AR Connect, as part of that migration process, we migrated at your request some or all of your existing invites to your legacy portal. That included influencers that never actually accepted your previous invite or created an account. So there is this backlog of migrated influencers for some of you that moved over with you to AR Connect that haven't gotten a new invite. We made it super easy for you to close that loop. Connor, I think you can show that here. Oh,
It won't show on Bistro.
it won't show on Bistro. So if you click on to invite influencers, if you have outstanding migrated influencers that have yet to connect, there will be a link here that says invite migrated influencers, and it does it. That's it. That's all you have to click. You're done.
Yep.
Um,
So that's
I
site access invite influencers. That's right. Yep.
I wanted another point that I wanted to address proactively because we've gotten this piece of feedback, and I want you to know that we hear you. And we're talking through solutions to this feedback. But the piece of feedback is, why isn't there a universal sign up link for AR Connect? Why do you have to invite through the application versus just a link that you could send out? And really, the answer is it protects your content. It protects the integrity of the ecosystem because only analysts or influencers that are a part of our influencer database that we feel really good about the data integrity there can be invited. This prevents someone who was an influencer, is now a vendor, or just a random, Conor's mom deciding that she really cares about what Conor does and she wants to get involved. It protects the integrity. You can't just send the link out. It has to come from the system. Now, we get why you want to be able to do this. You want to promote your AR Connect site. And we're thinking through and exploring ways to make that happen that are safe for you and protects your content and also protects the integrity of the ecosystem overall. I don't know. I was just looking at questions. Okay. And then finally on my end, so number one, you leave here, make your site discoverable. Number two, go through your queue of active requests. And number three, and this one's a little bit harder, takes a little bit more thought and definitely more work, commit to a recurring content asset. This could be monthly, this could be quarterly, this could be weekly, but some asset that you are publishing to AR Connect with a cadence, right? Not sporadically, but with a cadence where the content is specific to your audience, to the analyst audience. This is going to provide you leverage in a lot of ways. It sets an expectation with the analysts that when you have something important, they can expect that they're going to hear from you. It also triggers that you will appear in their content notification newsletter. So analysts who are part of AR Connect can opt in for a daily or weekly digest of content updates for the vendors that they are subscribed to or connected to. That means if you're putting new content up there, you're appearing in their digest. It's sort of simple marketing, right? You want that impression. So think through your content plan, and a recurring content format like a newsletter or a regular recap is a great way to do that.
Yes, and I will actually show an example to make this a bit more concrete. Do you see Bistro's site now?
Yes.
Great. So again, Bistro, fictional cybersecurity vendor. We use this to help demonstrate some best practices. The Bistro's analyst newsletter is called the Bistro Beat. And so just to give you a quick sense of what it might look like to do your newsletter via AR Connect, I'll just quickly do a scroll through here so you can see nothing crazy. It's what you would put into an email, and in this case, it's just formatted as an AR Connect post. And so it's one example of how, again, the best practice here, how do you drive more engagement? You can commit to one recurring asset. One example of doing that is just bring your newsletter to AR Connect. And as I said earlier, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just I saw a question come in that was very specific to discoverability,
Okay.
um, about what the experience is for the influencer if you dismiss their request. And there is honestly, there's nothing goes to them proactively saying, ARInsights dismissed your request. They can come in 30 days late. They can't request again for at least 30 days. They can come back in 30 days later and submit another request if they are persistent enough. Usually they would just kind of move on with their life and get in touch with you in a different way if they thought it was that crucial. I did also want to say you can, and Conor's going to show you this, you can accept and connect and create content that is just specific to a tier of audiences. And so Connor is actually going to walk through that
Mhm.
now.
Yes, that is a big part of
Okay.
my
Well, there
part
you
of.
go.
Did you see any other questions you want to get to now, or we could sort of return to them later, just while we're here?
Um, nope, that's
Okay,
it.
great. So we're still again on this first question that many of you were interested in, which is engagement and adoption. How do I drive more engagement? So everything Laura just shared, those are all things that you can implement right away to start driving more engagement. I'm going to take the baton here and share a few other ideas. And the main thrust of what I want to share here is that um, there's a direct correlation between how easy it is for an analyst to find what they're looking for and their engagement and adoption of your site. The easier it is for them to find what they're looking for, the more enthusiastically they're going to engage and adopt your site and make it a habit for them, make it part of their process. And so the question is, how do you make it? Tactically, what can you do to make it easy for analysts to find what they're looking for? And I have a few ideas here. I think most importantly, like again, this is one of those big takeaways for today's session. If you're wondering what should you jot down, this is definitely one of them. You can, as you are setting up a post to publish it, you can dictate exactly whom it's visible to. So I'll show you what I mean. If we come here to the posts, and I'll start a new post, create it manually. I don't want to write that. We'll edit an existing post. So this is the back end of a post. If I scroll all the way down to the bottom here, you'll see this module specified influencer visibility. And so if I toggle this, what this does is that if this is turned off, um, that just means that everybody who has access to my site will be able to see this post. But if I toggle this on, I can get hyper specific about who I want this content to appear to and who I don't want it to appear to. So if you'd like, in a situation where this is beneficial, you can set a post to be visible to just one analyst. If you're posting something for just one person, you can set it so that only they will see. But maybe more realistically, you can say, I want only these three analysts to see it, or this influencer group that I created in Architect. Many of you are using influencer groups for several reasons. Those can be applied here too. And you can say, hey, this group of 50 analysts, I want them to be the only ones who see this post. Or if you only want maybe you have an influencer group for your Omdia analysts and you only want people from Omdia to see this piece of content. You can say that here too. So this is a great way, in other words, to minimize clutter for analysts, because let's say, for example, you are publishing a post about endpoint security. And say only three of the analysts who are connected to your site care about endpoint security. That's only relevant to three of them. I'd recommend that you make that post visible to only those three analysts, because that means that all the other analysts who are visiting their site, who have no need for that information, they'll never see it. And so their experience with AR Connect is that much less cluttered, and it's that much easier for them to find what it is they're looking for. So I really strongly encourage you all to take advantage of the post visibility settings. I think it's a super powerful tool for creating a very curated experience. And I should mention here, somebody asked, I'm not sure whether they're here live, but somebody pre-submitted the question about personalization, tips for personalize the AR Connect experience for analysts. This is the most powerful tool in your toolbox to do just that. You can, again, if you wanted to make a post visible to just one person. I'm not sure when that would be a great idea, but it is something you can do. So definitely take advantage of post visibility settings. That's my number one tip to add to what Laura shared about driving more engagement. I do have a couple others.
Connor. Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Good.
That
Good.
one other use case there for visibility is, let's say you're running an event
Mm-hmm.
that is specific to a segment of influencers. You can basically build out that event content, not clutter everyone else's experience with it, and keep it very focused. And so that's just a real tangible use case.
And we have examples of that on Bistro. So, for example, I said earlier, Bistro's user conference is called Bistro Bonanza. And so, for the analyst summit tied to this event, the Bistro AR team has published a "Know Before You Go" post. As Laura was alluding to, this is only relevant to the analysts whom we have invited to this analyst summit. And so that's why down here in post visibility settings, you can see that I have toggled that on, and I've set this visible to only the analysts who are going to be there, because if you're not going to be there, there's no need for you to see this, and there's no need for us to slow you down as you're looking for whatever it is. That's a great call. That's one of my favorite use cases for this functionality. Two other tips here on this first question of how do you drive more engagement. One of them is, and I'll come back to Bistro's site. So whenever you are publishing a post, you have the option, and you should always do this, of tagging the post with the topics that you're covering. And you can see here that you can also specify your featured topics on your AR Connect homepage. So I'd encourage you, this is another powerful tool in your toolbox when it comes to making life easy for the analysts. You can just take some time to think through, uh, for the most part, when analysts come to your site, what is it they're going to be looking for, or how will they be thinking about you as a vendor? Will they be thinking in terms of product? Maybe they're only interested in a handful of products. Will they be thinking in terms of solution areas or markets? Those are great candidates for your featured topics. So just as an example, for Bistro, ClearPath is one of the products. Sentinel is another product. So this is just showing that we know that these are two, oftentimes when analysts come to our site, they'll be looking to learn about one of these products. So we make it very easy for them to get there. Or if an analyst is researching phishing or incident response, these are other examples of how we've been very thoughtful about the topics that we are bubbling up to the surface so that when analysts come here, they can just one click and find what they need. So if you click here, this brings them, oh, I'm not using this filter. That was a bad example. Sorry about that. I'll come back here. There we go. One post tag with this topic, and it's as easy as that. And the last tip I wanted to share here again on how you can make life a bit easier for your analysts. You'll notice that I have these very vibrant featured images on the post, and there's actually there's sort of a color code here, or theme here. All of our newsletter posts have this same featured image. Anytime we're announcing major product news, it has this color scheme, this idea, and then all of the posts around our event have its own very distinct featured image. This is just a great way to make your site very skimmable. Here's another example. So that as analysts are using your site more and more, they start to pick up on this and they can skim very easily if they're looking for your newsletter or looking for recent project announcements. It's just another visual cue for them. And it makes it that much easier for them to get in if what they need and go on with it. So we will recap all this after the fact, but everything Laura and I just shared over the last 10 minutes or so, those are all answers to this question of how do you drive better engagement, better adoption of your site? And
Connor,
yes,
one question that came in while we were talking
yes,
was around alerting vendors when content has hit a certain like if it's been live for over a year with a guidance of, hey, maybe you want to look at this and update it. Is there something new? And I bring that up now because I think it aligns with the theme, which is the value and accuracy and validity of the content that you are keeping in AR Connect. This is not meant to be the sort of knowledge base that goes back 3 or 4 years. This is meant to be what is relevant about your business now that analysts need to know about and access. So no, there's actually not an alert that helps you know the age of your content. You can schedule content to expire. So it will archive at a specific date. That is part of the functionality, but this was a great idea, something we'll think about for the product roadmap.
definitely. That's a great call out. It's another way of I think a great way to think about this question of how do I drive more engagement is to look through the lens of it's not the prettiest word, but again, clutter. And that's a great point. That's another if you can look through your site and think through just think about what here might be getting in the way of analysts finding what they're looking for, and outdated information is certainly a great example of that. So if there are no other sort of live questions about on this subject, I think we can move on. Okay. So I'm going to come back to our slides here. So this was the second of the two questions that almost everybody's pre-submitted questions bubbled up to, all about success and reporting. How should I measure success of AR Connect, my investment in it, and how should I think about reporting? So I have a few things I'm going to share, but first, Laura, you had some sort of big picture thoughts here on this question.
Yeah, so I would be even more specific than I think the number one question, well, two massive questions. One, what do I put on AR Connect?
Yeah,
And two, how do I know if I'm doing okay, right? What is good? What does good engagement look like? What does a good number of connected influencers look like? And so we talked a lot about like how do I know what to put? The what does good look like? I would love to be able to say this is the benchmark for number of connected influencers or connection rate or visits per influencer. There's a lot of it depends in every situation there. It depends on the quality of the content you're putting out there. It depends on the relationships that you have and your visibility for those influencers. So there's a lot of it depends based on your business, your AR program, and everything else you're executing around it. And it's also a little too soon for us to statistically, come to you and say, these are benchmarks. I think that by the end of this year, we'll have enough data of usage and be able to roll it up such that we can actually come to you with more like this is what good looks like. But right now, your programs are just so distinct and your playbooks are so varied that if we were, I feel like we wouldn't be serving you well to put a beacon up there that is just so far from your reality. So I would say we turn it back on the group here and say, what do you want to see as benchmarks? Like, what are those um, metrics or KPIs that are thinking, if you could compare me to fill in the blank, right? Businesses in my same industry, businesses of the same size program as mine, businesses following or engaging the same influencers. Um, that would be great for us to know as we are working on building out this capability for you all. I will say, so sort of turning to how do you just know and understand what's happening with your site? Conor, if we could jump to a couple of use cases, right? What if customers are looking to discover more about what's working, what's not working for them in their particular site?
Yes, and what Laura's alluding to here, which I'll get into, is there's really robust reporting tools in AR Connect. They are very powerful, and there's lots of different ways for you to get answers to very specific questions that you might be wondering about. So I'll show some examples. The first use case, we have three common use cases that we're going to walk through, and I'll show how you would uh, sort of set up your report to get the answers you're looking for. So the first use case is you might be wondering, what topics are the analysts and influencers attention to my site? What are they gravitating towards? What tends to get their attention? And on the flip side, are there any topics that we've been publishing about that sort of don't seem to drive much traffic? And that's a very straightforward question to answer with AR Connect reporting. So I'll show you all here. This is, apologies, I'm just moving my screen around. So you would, when you log into AR Connect, you would navigate to reports and then content performance report. So that's what we're looking at here. And then you can come up here to the group by toggle, and you can group by content topics. And so that's what that means, that this legend down here beneath the chart, each one corresponds to a different topic that you are publishing about. And then you're going to show by total views. So the show by, that has to do with the y-axis here. So that's what's being counted in this chart. And then we recommend for this use case using the column chart type. And so what you can see here is that if you look, especially at May and June in this example, there's a handful of topics that tend to drive the most overall traffic here clustered at the front. And then, especially in June, you can see that there's a bit of a leveling out lower with some other topics. So this is just one way for you to see at a glance so far what are analysts gravitating towards and what's not getting their attention as much. And you have to be able to dig in there and sort of optimize your content strategy there going forward, which ties back to our first question of driving engagement. You can
Conor,
yeah,
just
yeah,
to highlight those group buys and show buys, I want to make sure that everybody knows that they're there and that
yes.
there's more under the covers there. You can group by topics, you can group by types, you can group by or show by time spent with that content. unique analysts accessing that content, unique firms accessing that content. So there's a lot of slicing and dicing you can do with the data there that I want to make sure doesn't get lost.
Yes, and actually, after I finish walking through these screenshots, why don't I can go back to Bistro really quick and just show live how you can toggle between them. The reason we're using these screenshots is because Bistro, as I said, is a demo site. It's a fictional company, so we don't have this data to show. But I will go back there to show how that. But that's our first use case. The next one, we're still in the content performance report, and the question we're answering here is which topics have the broadest appeal. So again, we're grouping by content topics. So again, everything the bars all represent one topic that we've been publishing about. But what's different is that instead of showing by total views, we're showing by unique firm count. So now what's being counted on the y-axis is the number of unique firms that have had an analyst consume topic content in this topic. And so again, it's just the taller the bar is, the broader the reach, because that means a higher number of firms have analysts who are interested in that content, and a shorter bar means that the reach is narrower, which may not be a bad thing if you have a certain solution that's only relevant to one firm. Totally fine that only one firm is checking out that content. That's actually probably good. But again, this is just another way that you all can use the reporting to answer a specific question. And the last use case I want to talk through, we're going to switch to a different type of report. So if you go to reports and then go to influencer activity report, the question you can answer here is what firms are engaging the most and the least with my AR Connect site. So it's an influencer activity report. And what we're doing here is grouping by firm. So each bar, which is down here in the legend, each bar represents one particular analyst firm. And we're showing by unique influencers. So what's being counted on the y-axis is the number of unique influencers that have visited the site and that have been active on the site. So in this example, we can see the orange bar IDC. Clearly, many, in June, more than 20 unique influencers from IDC visited this site. Omdia, Frost and Sullivan, also quite active. And then there's this other group that clearly is the largest, which that's the long tail that Laura referred to earlier. That's all the 148 firms that are active in the ecosystem. So before we wrap this up, why don't I exit the slide share?
Connor, while you're doing that, I wanted to answer a couple of quick questions I saw come through. So there was one question about, is there an API to access the AR Connect? I'm assuming activity data, but maybe it's some other specific object. For integration into other applications? The answer is not yet, but I would love to understand more about the requirements there. What would you like to pull via API? That would be super helpful for us. Another question was, in which situations or circumstances do you recommend using a limited visibility post versus creating a dedicated page for a specific group of analysts? I think those are both the same thing, meaning that the tactic to implement them is setting visibility on pages. So if there's a specific use case you're looking to implement, then please let us know so that we can help you put it into place. I think that was for Louise over at IBM.
I'll just sorry if you mentioned this, Laura, and I missed it when I was navigating my screen. But in case you haven't, I will mention that one of the actions you can do in bulk with your posts is set the visibility. So there's a way. Actually, I'm pulling up the backend right now. But I'm going to show it while we're here. This is great. Thank you to everybody who is asking all these questions. This is why we love doing these and answering these questions live. So before I go back to the reporting, I'll just show that in posts, if, for example, say you have 3 posts that are related to your event and you want to just set the visibility so that only the analysts who are attending your event can see the post, you just go click, 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 bulk actions, you can set visibility. So that's something you can do in bulk. Somebody asked whether there are other bulk actions, for example, removing featured posts in bulk. That is not something that you can do yet, but that is a good idea. We'll note that for the future. So just to close the loop on reports, the content performance reports, if you come here to reports, click content performance. Again, please forgive the lack of data. This is a demo site. But what Laura was referring to is that you have a few options in terms of group by. You can group by content types, topics is what we showed, or firms, and then show by, you can count views, unique influencers, unique firms, average time, total time. So that's how that works. And we were showing a column chart. And then I'll go back to reports, influencer activity. Again, same idea. You can group by firm, tier, or influencer group, which is great. Again, if you are using AR Connect because you don't have time to brief your tier two analysts, and this is your way of scaling your team to engage with with tier two, you can group by tier and see how are we doing with tier two analysts? Are they coming to our site? Or again, if you grouped analysts in a specific way, you can use this. And then same thing, you can show by all these different metrics.
And then Connor, if you scroll down there, just
Yes.
click. Oh, you don't remove your filter. If you click on Conor Bond, you can actually see. I'm not sure if folks are aware that that's under the covers there, but this is Conor Bond's detail page.
Yeah.
It shows you how active he's been, shows you his visits, the content he accessed, how that breaks down by type and topic, if he's downloaded any content or bookmarked any content. So that's also very helpful if you are specifically looking to understand Conor and everything about him.
Yes, and you can see how real time this is because this is logging my visit from the start of the webinar.
You're very active.
Yes. So we have just a couple of minutes left. There were a couple of anonymous questions that I think I'll have to follow. I won't be able to follow up this person because they're anonymous. I am curious this question about, is analyst access always pull? Does the AR Connect push as well? I'm not totally sure what this question is asking. In terms of push, I will say that Laura mentioned earlier that analysts who are subscribed, who are connected to your site, they will receive digests so that when you publish content, AR Connect will automatically, on your behalf, push that content to those analysts in a daily digest and also a weekly digest. So that's one push mechanism that is automated from AR Connect. I hope
And
that
also in app. So if that vendor, I mean, if that analyst logs in, I don't know if you're still logged in the vendor view and in one of your screens, but they have a notifications panel and they can review that notifications panel.
And Larry, to answer your question from promoter, yes, you will get the recording and the deck. And so that's that. We have about a minute and a half. If anybody has any last minute questions they want us to get, of course, there's no pressure. Laura and I are easily accessible. You can always send us a note. I will stop sharing. I don't know if Laura, if you wanted to, if there are no more questions, if you wanted to maybe just share a few words about how you're thinking about AR Connect going forward.
Yes. Yep. Just looking to see if there's any other. Nope. So, well, let me just first reiterate a few really important things that we shared. Make your site discoverable, please. I think you will really benefit from that action. Pay attention to your connection requests and sort of clear the decks on a regular basis. And think about your cadence of publishing and also thinking about what we've been learning about the content types that are getting the most exposure. I think the thing I would leave you all with, what's on the horizon, that anecdote that Connor shared about vendor published content on AR Connect, analyst consumed it, analyst published about it. That's amazing, right? We want you to be able to report on when that happens. We want to tell you about that proactively. We don't want you to have to sort of forensically find that. So that is a feature that we are actively working on. And then also in-app messaging so that there's a threaded history of your back and forth with analysts. So again, we think about what the analysts are telling us. I don't want to chase things through my email. I'd like things to be grouped in nice, logical places where I know where to go to get it. That's also something that we're thinking about.
Right. Very exciting. Well, we are right at 1 o'clock Eastern. So thank you all so much. Again, so happy to see a diverse range of folks, some who are part of the ecosystem, some who aren't. So many great questions, which we really appreciate. Thank you for that. And we will see you all later on. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.